This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. This is a really important video. I hope you will share this. You will want to share it. And after you watch it, you're definitely going to say, I need to share it. And this is about all of the whispers and rumors we've heard about a power grid shutdown. Now, I know I've talked about it in the past, but I want to talk about something that they're not warning you about, which is an EMP attack. A lot of people on the website have been talking about it, ways to prepare, obviously talking about homesteading and things like that. There is going to be an EMP attack. They have warned of it. And Biden talked about it about 3 or 4 days ago over wherever he is with his NATO allies, the ones who are all planning this. Because remember, Russia's going to be the ones they use as the excuse. Our own government is doing this. They've been testing this, and this is going to come right out of Plum Island and the Department of Homeland Security. This will cause massive chaos, an EMP. But listen to Biden first. He's warning about a cyber attack. So people are naturally thinking about, oh, a cyber attack. I'm going to get, my personal ID and all this stuff are going to be attacked. This all ties in to an actual EMP attack so that people are prepared. But they'll say cyber attack so people know what's coming because they don't want anyone prepared or to hear about what an EMP can possibly do because they won't be able to do a great reset without an EMP attack.
Look, today my administration is issuing new warnings that based on evolving intelligence, Russia may be planning a cyber attack against us. As I said, the magnitude of Russia's cyber capacity is fairly consequential, and it's coming. The federal government is doing its part to get ready, but under U.S. law, as you all remember, the private sector, all of you, largely decides the protections that you will or will not take in order to protect your sources. But let me be absolutely clear about something. It's not just in your interest that are at stake with the potential use of cybersecurity. It is the national interest at stake. And I would respectfully suggest it's a patriotic obligation for you to invest as much as you can in making sure, and we will help in any way, that you have built up your technological capacity to deal with cyber attacks. First, to protect your own companies. Second, it provides as providers of critical services that Americans rely on, from power to clean water. And finally, your role you can play in helping secure every American and every American's privacy.
So Biden's pretty much putting this on the American people. He's telling us it's coming, okay? And he's saying it's on you to take care of yourself and to protect yourself, which is incredible because that's what the government is supposed to do. They have deliberately left our power grid vulnerable for a reason. I covered that a few weeks ago. They did a 60 Minutes piece on the power grid and why the power grid is so vulnerable, because there's no protection for it. The government has done nothing to protect it on purpose because of this reset that is coming. So what's the difference, you ask, between an EMP attack and a power grid attack? Well, I'm actually going to use a few news clips here, and believe it or not, even at one point CNN discussed it, which doesn't mean it's not credible. This is about 10, 15 years ago, where they were talking about this, and other news outlets have discussed it in the past, but there's a reason they're not talking about it anymore, because they don't want people to know that an EMP attack is coming. Because guess what? A power grid attack is different than an EMP attack. You know when your power goes out, you still have your cell phone? Well, when an EMP attack occurs, you're going to know it occurred because your phone's not going to work. Everything is going to be short-circuited, like this scene shows you.
To be very, very carefully.
Look at that.
It's all going to turn off.
What?
It's going to turn off, and it will never, ever turn back on. Everything is going to turn off.
Ben, did I lose you?
No.
Okay? If you've seen that before, you probably said, oh, it's kind of weird. A power outage, I still can do certain things. How come in that scene, literally your laptop, which might be fully charged, goes down? Because an EMP attack will do that. It'll take everything down completely, just like this.
Newt Gingrich Asked during the debate to name the security threats that worry him, Newt Gingrich lays out 3 scenarios: a weapon of mass destruction in an American city, a cyber attack, and something many have never heard of.
Electromagnetic pulse attack, which would literally destroy the country's capacity to function.
An electromagnetic pulse attack, or EMP. It's been the stuff of fiction on the Fox show 24.
It's an EMP!
But it's also a real threat, experts say, and it likely wouldn't look like that. An EMP attack, they say, is an intense burst of electromagnetic radiation. It can be triggered by detonating a nuclear weapon at high altitude, a weapon that could be launched by a rogue nation or a terrorist group with access to it. Detonated low to the ground, atomic weapons have a devastating physical shock. But detonated miles up in the atmosphere, experts say, the main impact is electrical, energy that doesn't kill people but spreads like lightning, striking any electrical grid or circuitry, feeding into them, burning them out. Whole cities could go dark. Security analyst James Carafano has written about EMP attacks.
In one single event, what could be disabled?
If you had a large-scale EMP event in the United States, everything would be disabled, because even things that weren't knocked out, let's say your car, which might be okay, but the electrical grid's going to be gone. There's going to be no way to do traffic lights. There's going to be no way to land ships. There's no way to get fuel to the gas stations to refuel your car. And if you got them there, the gas pumps wouldn't work.
Think of this fictional attack in the movie Ocean's 11. We demonstrated electromagnetic interference on a much smaller, less threatening scale at the University of Maryland, showing how magnetic fields from some electronic devices often interfere with other devices.
You hear this ringing behind me? We're showing you what electromagnetic interference is. Say this television is a car. The car's function is rolling along normally. Here's a cell phone ringing. When it gets close to that, you can see how the audio of the television signal changes. You can hear the interference. That's essentially, it's interfering with the car's function.
But with a large-scale EMP attack, experts say, computers would fail, telecommunications cut off, bank accounts inaccessible. They say that's because the transformers that power many electrical grids take a long time to manufacture and transport. And with transportation knocked out by the attack, that prolongs the isolation.
A panel of experts at the Universal Peace Federation has now issued a warning on the growing threat of EMP, or electromagnetic pulse weapons. Such an attack can knock out virtually all communications and other critical services of countries in a matter of minutes. For long, experts have warned that key electrical infrastructure in the United States remains particularly vulnerable to an electromagnetic pulse attack, or EMP, likely to be orchestrated by China, North Korea, or even Russia. The Universal Peace Federation specialists have now said that the US is at a pivotal moment if it wants to avoid a potential doomsday scenario. But to analyze the risk, we must first understand what an EMP is and how it can be weaponized. An EMP weapon is one that directs a massive explosion of energy over an intended target, much like lightning. But in contrast to other conventional weapons, an EMP explosion does not physically harm humans. What it does, though, is cripple all electronic devices and infrastructure within its radius. The weapon at first is glided directly above an intended target. These weapons, according to the US nomenclature, are classified as high-altitude electromagnetic pulse, or HEMP. A HEMP attack can interfere with radio frequency and instantly produce damaging voltage in electronic devices across thousands of miles. It can hinder fuel distribution, transport, food and water supply, and most importantly, communications, especially military communications. Such attacks can permanently immobilize vehicles with modern electronic ignition and control systems. Several congressional hearings and commissions in the US have flagged the vulnerabilities of the American power grid. In 2015, a congressional committee testified in a joint hearing to discuss EMP weapons and preparedness. It asserted that a nationwide grid collapse, either via HEMP attacks or other conventional methods, had the potential to wipe out up to 90% of the American population.
So we know the threat is there because they're telling us the threat is there of a cyber grid attack. It's almost like I've been saying for a long time. They've been prepping us for that for a long, long time, for the grid shutdown. And it could very well be a grid shutdown versus an EMP attack, but an EMP attack ties in perfectly with a great reset. Why, you ask? Because the grid will be down for a long time. They won't have an excuse if the power grid goes down and they can't get it back. An EMP attack takes a while to recover from. In fact, it'll actually reset things. So when it comes back up and it starts working again months later, you'll likely have $0 in your bank account. Why? Because they'll say, well, we can't do anything about it. The attack brought everything to zero. We have no documentation since everything's electronic of what you had in your bank account. And thus they can roll in a great reset and a universal income. Okay? That's why it's really important to be prepared for this. Now you might say, Carl, tell me how to be prepared. Well, all I can tell you is to research EMP on your own. You can get EMP blockers or Faraday bags. These are things that'll protect from that. But remember, wire cords, things like that that have electronics in them are going to be completely zapped. So you would need to put them inside the bag. But something to keep in mind, people are like, well, you put you keep your phone and stuff in there. Other people aren't going to have phones unless they have a landline phone and that phone isn't plugged in during the actual attack. That might potentially work. I'm not even 100% sure of that. Your internet would be down anyway if you have your laptop in there, but there's other things that you might want to put inside of a bag, such as solar panels that have cords if you have a solar generator and things like that. So it's important to prep, and it's also important to have food on hand. These are all things that you can research on your own. You might say, well, why don't you do it for me? Because I don't want to tell you to go buy something if you can't afford it, and I don't want to recommend a company that I don't know anything about. I know I have my own supplies, but I haven't tried them out yet. I'm not dying. I'm not waking up going, I really want to eat my supply food, right? I mean, you pay for it so that you have it on hand for the event of a type of attack. Now, I don't want anyone out there to panic. I just want you to be prepped. There's a reason that they've been cracking jokes for centuries about tinfoil hat wearers, because tinfoil is something that actually could fight off an EMP attack. So if you had a room that was covered in tinfoil and you had your electronics in it, that might work. Now, I'm not telling you to wrap your house in it. You might want to wrap some of your electronics in it. I don't know if it'll fully get the job done. Those are things that you have to research on your own. But at least you'll be able to tell the difference between the two. And if you see the power goes out and your cell phone and things like that are on the fritz, they might not completely go at first, but eventually the screen might just go completely off. Then you would know it's an EMP versus a grid attack. Okay? The difference between the two is an EMP is going to be a while before the grid comes back on. So that's when you want to start getting into your supply chain. You should always have water on hand. I'll tell you that much. I would definitely, if you don't have water on hand, sometime this weekend, I would get water, or next week. You should just always have water, no matter what situation. Now, another thing also to keep in mind is all of the mind control programming with zombie apocalypses, right? I know we all look at it and we say, zombie apocalypse, we're living in it, right? I have the t-shirts of the zombie apocalypse and all these morons that are wearing masks and things like that. Well, this ties in a big way because an EMP is an electromagnetic pulse. So it's electromagnetic disturbance. It's a burst of electromagnetic energy that would shut off electronics and everything else and, pretty much cause them to completely either burn out completely or not be usable until everything was fixed and came back. But what I'm getting at here is that there's certain people who have made themselves awfully electromagnetic, if you know what I mean. We've been showing people shoving magnets on their bodies and things like that for a couple years now, at least well over a year since they started doing it. And of course, we've been called insane. Just imagine how an EMP weapon being used would affect those people who have something inside of them. Now, it might either knock them out completely or it might turn them rabid. I don't know. I'm not, a lot of us who know about EMP attacks aren't really able to run tests with it as far as, being inside somebody's body and what it might do to them. But that Big Brother has, that our government has. So if you're somebody listening to this and you're not aware of what I'm talking about, maybe somebody shared this video with you, okay? Watch my videos on graphene, the black goo, and the mind control programming behind it, and understand nanos. I can't even say the word on here. You automatically get thrown, get a strike and the video removed, okay? And putting that inside your body makes your body, well, let's just call it electromagnetic. So imagine if an EMP disturbance occurred, what it could possibly do to somebody who is amped up their body's electromagnetic field by being stupid. And, these people who are like, call us all crazy conspiracy theorists are going to become rabid if they don't croak on the spot. Of course, they can't come out and blame, when everything comes back on, they won't be able to, the magic potion or anything like that. Of course not. It'll just be, Russia. The people will be so worn down. They'll probably be starving to death. There's so many things that can come from something like this, but this would not be something that's for the rest of our lives. I want to make sure you know that, because remember, they need to get everybody reset and then connected with technology. This would give them a way to get people to get technology inside of them. Unhackable technology, they'll call it, even though you will be getting hacked by your own government because you will be putting this technology inside of you. Something like this has to occur, not just for the reset, to get everybody's bank accounts to zero, to get everybody on an even playing field, but also to usher in this new type of technology so that people who are fearful of that ever happening again would feel comfortable, because all it takes is the television to tell them that by putting something inside their body, they're now unhackable, they're now connected to their technology, their bank accounts are in them. Remember, I've been talking about that with blockchain. Okay, and the experiments done on rats, and why Stephen Colbert and the mainstream media actually talked about that to deflect from it, because they always will deflect the truth and make light of it. And that's what tinfoil hat's about. That's what it comes from. If you don't know what it stems from, you just hear tinfoil hat wearer. Sometimes they put it in movies about aliens and things like that because they want to divert what people are talking about. They admit that EMP weapons are real and a real threat. They admit that our power grid is completely unprotected. Yet these people think that we're all nut conspiracy theorists. And when all this stuff goes down, they're still not going to listen because they're prideful. And they're going to think it was still Russia because they don't want to give in and say, oh, it's our own government. And then they're going to just think, oh, whatever, these people are still crazy, right-wing lunatics. And remember, all the stuff they're doing now with division and all that, it's all going to factor in when crap hits the fan. Because people are already growing cold. Right? And we're looking at people who hate one another. They don't like the sight of each other. They're fighting amongst each other. Just imagine when people are in need of food and you think that that's bad enough, food and water. Think about these people who are so dependent on technology that they can't live without their phones for 5 seconds. They're going to go AWOL, like I always say. They're going to put their heads through the walls. They're going to be running amok. That's what the zombie apocalypse programming is about. Okay, not just about how we live amongst these zombies. But they're literally going to turn into zombies. And those shows like The Walking Dead, now I've never watched the show before, but I've seen like Night of the Living Dead and things like that. You can expect a time period like that to occur. I don't care if anyone talks about this and says it's a crazy conspiracy. It's not. It's not. Let's look at the points that we've heard here, especially if you're somebody who doesn't know what I'm talking about. We have the president talking about an attack, a cyber attack. You automatically probably think, well, that means that I'm not going to be able to go on the internet. And oh my goodness, my bank account might get affected. Well, the simple fact is they're telling you it's going to happen. Then you have CNN telling you that the grid is not CNN, it's 60 Minutes telling you that the grid is not protected just about a month ago, when we've all known for a long time that our cyber grid, our power grid is not protected. Google it for yourself and look it up and do research. It's vulnerable for a reason. It's vulnerable to be attacked. It's sitting there to be attacked. Because then they could say, oops, we didn't do enough to protect it. The government didn't, right? So as Babylon crumbles here as well, the government will take the hit on purpose. Because look at the people who are in power. You don't think that they're acting like this on purpose, incompetently, where everyone's going nuts, going, look at these people. They're doing it on purpose. And everyone's going to go, oh man, and we need a whole new government system and all this stuff with the left and the right and talking about issues that don't matter, right? We need to start fresh. And this is how you bring in a new world order. This is how you bring in globalism. You have to destroy our government. All the governments have to work as one. That's what globalism and a new world order is. This is the way to do it. You have to start by resetting everything, which is what they're openly talking about. So if you're not familiar with that, the Great Reset is the World Economic Forum's little baby pet that they've been nurturing, and now it's ready to go. That's what the outbreak was for. That's what this Russian thing is for. Everything is set for this to occur. We have people who are already electromagnetic. We have the potential of EMP attacks, and we have somebody to point a finger at. They don't want you to point a finger at your own government. And I guarantee you when this happens, nobody but us will. They will listen to whatever they hear and they will believe it's Russia. They'll be extra vulnerable, which will mentally make them listen to their government and want protection and help because they'll feel like they need it. Where people like us, who already don't trust them, will be already set up and protected on our own. Also keep in mind you need self-defense and protection because there's going to be rabid people. I'm not telling you how to go about that. That's up to you and how you run your household and run your family in whatever situation you might be in financially to take care of yourself. But just be protected and be prepared. We heard Klaus Schwab talk about getting ready for a rabid world, an angry world. This all ties into that. Remember, the grid will come back on. It has to come back on, but don't expect money in your bank account. Don't expect things to ever be the same when that happens. And I'm not saying it's happening today or tomorrow. It's coming. I wouldn't worry about it in the next week or two, that's for sure, but it's coming. Putin's even talked about it. He's openly talked about anyone that gets involved, what's going to happen. So this has to obviously play out. But it's all set up for it. And we've been warning about this for a long, long time. So there's a reason that you see all these people, trending, investing their money in crypto. All that's going to be a goner. All of it. And guess what? Those people who kept cash at your home, well, it's probably not going to be worth much. And I'm not saying I'm someone who doesn't either. But it's better to have it there than have it in a bank. And who knows what it might turn into at some point when the grid goes back on, because they're not going to be able to immediately roll into a digital currency. They're going to have to earn people's trust in technology again because they've allowed this to happen. And they'll come in with the answer. Probably be, we all believe it'll probably be 6G at that point. But it's going to take a little bit of time. This is Agenda 2030 playing out. But at any time, this type of attack can occur in the next few years, the next few months, or the next few weeks. So I just want you guys to know and to be prepared and know the difference between the two. If you see your electronics on the fritz with the power out, know it's an EMP attack, okay? When you know it's an EMP attack, then you can prepare yourself to get ready to go into your supplies and things like that after you run out of whatever you might have around the house. Also keep in mind for those, like I said earlier, if you're trying to figure out what you can do, you could put small items. You could buy small generators where you could use it at solar power, but you need to protect these inside of a Faraday bag too because of the cord that runs through it. So what you would do is you would get something like a grill, an electric grill. Okay, you would put that inside the bag. You would put the solar power and the panels inside of there, and then at least you have a grill. If you're somebody who doesn't want to go that route or can't go that route, obviously you would need to cook over an open fire or things like that because you're going to probably run out of stuff in your pantry that's edible, like chips and cookies or whatever else you have, right? If you're someone who farms, obviously you're in a good situation because you'll have your regular crops that you already have. And again, homesteading and things like that are all things that people should learn because the grid thing is going to be an extended period of time, but it's not going to be like this 20-year thing that's going to go on. It's going to occur for a little while. It's going to be the beginning of all this stuff and getting the mark inside of people's bodies. So I want you guys to know this. I want you to be prepared about it. I hope this video has helped in some way. These are the things, if you're not aware of it, if you're new to this or you're someone who just listens to my channel and maybe you just listen because you like, to see the signs and the symbols or me make fun of the Satanists, look, write these things down to look into. You already know about the Great Reset because I tell you about it almost every day for a couple years now, maybe 5 years. Look into EMP attacks. Look into ways you can grow your own food. Save a little bit of money instead of wasting it on something like, I don't know, what's trending on YouTube? Oh, let's go buy toys and stock up on them in our homes and things like that. Pointless stuff they want you to waste your money on and do because they don't want you to have money and invest your money in things like this. Your money in the bank and your money in the stock market is going to mean nothing. So invest in water, long-term food, right? If you can't buy stuff like that, get soups. I know that the soup cans say they expire now, which is just a joke. On the cans, it has a 1-year shelf life. I was growing up, it was like a 5-10 year shelf life, if I remember correctly. So I wouldn't even worry about the expiration because when crap hits the fan, you're not going to care if soup is expired or not. I doubt you're going to get sick, but don't take that advice from me. That's up to you. You decide what you want to do on that end. Those are things to look into. And remember, when people call you crazy, they're telling you that a cyber attack's going to occur. All these movies we've seen, just like all the movies we've seen about outbreaks, right? What has happened? Then we've had the outbreak. And what happened? Everyone was desensitized to it, so they didn't think it was some type of government conspiracy because they were like, well, we've seen outbreak. We knew that this was possible. We knew that this could happen and it could happen and spread all throughout the world, right? Because they're imbeciles. That's the point of all the movies, is to desensitize you from it so you're ready for it when it comes, and then you already know how to react to it or you already know what to blame and to listen to, what they tell you, right? The same thing with this. movie after movie after movie about something like this. And remember also, wherever you are, you're not going to be able to get gas, right? You're not going to be able to run your electric car because the grid's going to be down. The gas station runs on it as well, right? The electric car will run on it, obviously. So you're going to need to have stuff where you're at and keep yourself protected however you can. I hope in the time being, if you want to learn stuff, you could join the website. This isn't a plug for the website, this video to join it. I'm just telling you that there's great stuff over there on homesteading and other things. You obviously could find channels on YouTube. You could do your own research for hours on end about this, but just be aware and be prepared because it is coming at some point. And I'm not doing this to cause a fear attack. People will be like, he's fear mongering. Oh yeah. And when it happens, you're going to come and apologize. No, you won't. You would just go, oh, you're still wrong. It wasn't an EMP. It was a power grid. Or, oh, it was one of the, I mean, it's just, people are just prideful and moronic. This is to get you prepped. If you have extra money, these are the things that you should invest in. It'll go a lot further than even something like gold. I'll tell you that much right now. I thank you guys for being here. I hope you're doing well. I hope this video helps in some way. God bless all of you and your families.